Before I begin this, I'd like to point out the people who talk about critical race theory are controlled opposition, and I'm not with that crowd. I'm on the side of the truth, and anyone who loves the truth listens to me. The title here is White, Jewish, and LGBT Supremacy and Their Luciferian Interpretation of the Bible is Enforced by All Churches. Okay, so that's what I want you to keep in mind while we discuss this. Okay, the title here is, the second title, because that's the name of what it's saved under, is Organized White Supremacy. Point number one. There's a spectrum of white people that are oppressors, and this is why it is called a white power structure. Okay, there's a spectrum. See how I made that word big? Okay, there's a spectrum of white people that are oppressors, and this is why it is called a white power structure. What they all have in common is they reject the leadership of the Royal African Falcon top martial arts order and are in rebellion against it and by default God. That's because of the characteristics of me, my characteristics go beyond everyone else's. And it means that they should take what I say seriously and they should rally for moral precision around me. But they all reject that. So everybody who doesn't rally to me is upholding white supremacy one way or another. We'll get into that because it sets a precedent of, hey, if we can cheat the most righteous guy ever, okay, then we may as well play the game and do what's in it for us. So it's selflessness versus selfishness, the willingness to cheat the one nature, the one God has chosen to be the last valid leader ever. Okay, pretty straightforward. Any questions, put it in the comments. I am mixed and not racist. I am not a black supremacist. Poor white males and hate groups are known for yelling white power. Hey, why are these poor guys yelling white power when they don't have very much power at all? And they're obviously doing things in a way that works for the rich white people, or the rich white people would have snuffed them out long ago. Pretty straightforward. There's immigration they could have used to snuff them out. They could have offered incentives for people who don't behave like that, and there's all kinds of things they could have done. But instead, they created the situation for people to be inclined to take that stance. Okay, remember, they're changing my voice in this video. Anyway, moving on. Point number two. Okay. White culture is central to why it is hard to explain. So why is it so hard to explain? Why do I have to write this down like this? You know what I'm saying? Why are they persecuting me with 22 witnesses? Well, it has to do with their culture. In America, it's basically all white culture and all cultures that are approved by people who are the cores of white culture and cultures. That's all you see. And then there's me being persecuted. Okay. A. Drugs, alcohol, and senseless violence are promoted by cultures they allow while they snuffed out the Black Panther Party, which was controlled opposition. They took it out for the psychological effect and the symbolism. The grand dragon of the clan, so to speak, versus the cat or the panther of Ra, which is a name for God, and some people misinterpret it as the sun god. And has to do with the sun being a symbol of the ideal man who embodies the characteristics of God. That's an important distinction to make. Okay? So the grand dragon, the snake of the racist white hate group, the Ku Klux Klan, versus the cat, the panther, right? Of Ra, so to speak, with the black to symbolize the occult and foreshadowing. It's part of why it's black, because the yellow is associated with the sun. And they don't want people to think of the black man as divine. That's also why they lean toward being communist. Not all of them were communists, but they leaned so much toward being communists that they're remembered to a large degree as being communists. And that was about getting rid of people who think like me more. So they're controlled opposition, and they were snuffed out for the psychological effect and the symbolism of the dragon swallowing the sun, where the Black Panther is superimposed on the leopard, which in turn is superimposed on the falcon, which is said to fly high and closest to the sun and have falcon vision, God speed, light speed, what have you. It's all connected. It's a long martial art explanation that's involved there, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Okay. B. Hey, any questions? Again, I encourage you, put in the comments. Okay, if you see that you're commenting and I'm not responding, they might be suppressing your comments. Try hard to get my attention. B. The political left, right, and middle controlled opposition. Okay, now this is a play on words you need to listen very carefully for. This is not something I made up myself. This is clear cut that this is what they're getting at. The word opposition, right, has the word position. The word position is poison it, scrambled. Okay, but it's also opposition, opposition, as the O is a symbol of the reproductive cycle. Okay, the reproductive cycle position. And it's also the O with wings is a symbol of the sun disk, and the sun disk is also symbolized by the O, the sun disk. So it's also the sun disk position. The sun cycle is considered to be associated with the reproductive cycle of Pharaoh that the Jews and the people in the Middle East and the southern Mediterranean basin, southern Europe, were well aware of. Okay, so they would vie in regards to who's ideal relative to Pharaoh's argument because Egypt was much more pronounced and for a much longer time than Greece was in the ancient world. Okay, very important to note that. The Greeks are basically just people who stole Egyptian culture and other African cultures and gave it a white man's twist. With all due respect, I think everyone who does any research into that quickly comes to that conclusion. All right, where we're here. All right. So, okay. aka the divine male king and what his characteristics are. Also see Psalm 19 where it says the sun is the symbol of the bridegroom. Also Revelation, Jesus' face was like the sun, the angel standing in the sun, and so on and so forth. And make it harder to organize people for morality. Okay? So the political left and right and middle control opposition to make it harder to organize people for morality. Also, ironically, social media rules make it harder to discuss white cultural imperialism and white supremacy and truth, and I'm not talking about within the limits of liberal controlled opposition propaganda. They suppress my videos, and they've given me quite a bit of difficulty, even though I comment on videos every day. I go much further than everyone else who has videos to get people's attention, okay? And I have close to no views. Very telling of white supremacy. Very telling. C. Psychological operations provoke people, such as COINTELPRO, which wasn't that long ago. They do this so they can say that the targeted individual or group is a criminal threat. They insist that every culture is evil, and many Christians would agree. Now, you see, provoke, right? Profound, proof, pro of, okay? COINTELPRO, okay? Intel, intelligence, C-O, intelligence, pro. Okay, is it martial intelligence or is it groomed by Western social clubs and corporate groups and so on and so forth in a school kind of society? Remember Weishaupt, who's said to be the founder of a secret society, which I'm not going to explore in this video, called the Illuminati, was a college professor. Skull and Bones, college. Berzelius at Yale, college. Scroll and Key, Wolf's Head, college organizations. They have strong ties to the intelligence community, like George Bush and his ties with the intelligence community, and he was a president, and on and on and on. I believe it was both Bushes were members of Skull and Bones. Not a coincidence. Social clubs, corporate groups, government groups, and contractors, etc., are key in supporting the process of stifling criticism in regards to white supremacy and their cruel social orders that run all cultures that they allow to exist. E. Schools, cultures, dating sites, dating in general, demographics, Greek frats and sororities, and more are all designed to uphold white supremacy. If you don't know that, where are you from? Okay. F. The scales people use are designed to uphold white supremacy. One's DNA or skulls, right? Skull and bones. One's DNA or skulls, and their scales, and the scales people use are connected. Skull and bones, pirate, right? Snake, to cheat, to steal, to pirate. Pirate, scrambled is rape it. Not a coincidence. G. My research makes it clear that America never matured enough to shed the white supremacist blueprints, paths, sentiments, behaviors, emotions, and philosophies of its founders. This video by itself makes that clear, right? Skulls, scales are connected. Okay. Many rich people have pagan symbols of white Greco-Roman cult supremacy. I urge you to stop this video at times and think about what I'm saying. Write it down, take it in. Many rich people and corporations have pagan symbols of white Greco-Roman cultural supremacy. Okay, it's a long story. I'm going to leave it there. Let's get to point I. The Club of Rome is made of elites, including former leaders who obviously mean and meant to uphold white supremacy, such as the Knights of Columbus. I wonder what they're about. And the Pilgrim Society. I wonder if there's racial overtones there. What they are trying to do is implicit in their names, and any research one does will not contradict this, I assure you. For whatever reason, the word Rome is an anagram for the word more. Many restaurants, corporations, private clubs, bars, and more make you feel out of place if you are not a certain type of white person. I know that firsthand, and I know other people have reported feeling the same way. And why would they make it up? They wouldn't. K. When I was growing up, females at times said in a way that I could overhear, I just don't date black guys. Or, ew, a black guy. Or, ew, and then they would say, it's nothing against you. Or something like that. Also, white conservatives white conservative looking guys who had a military way about them, obviously, often, would often say, just because she doesn't like black guys doesn't mean she's a racist. The guy in a hate group thinks that if you discriminate based on race and you don't judge people according to the content of your character, it's not because you're racist, it's just because you're a smart white person on board or some bitch shit like that. Just fucking retarded. Other people are nowhere near as intelligent as I am. It comes up again and again and again and again. All right, anyway. The parents of white females often tell black guys that they know that the world is racist and that they just don't want them to bring their daughter down with them, quote unquote, right? Most people are smart enough to see that there is a concerted effort with the government and the corporations to try to get black males to join gangs. They do this partially because they want to have an excuse for mistreating them. M. Job discrimination happened and happens so much that the government had to acknowledge it and pass legislation against it that did not really help too much. They also work the angle of sabotaging blacks in school if they aren't in a social club family or something. Individuals from every race will find out the hard way as they get older why it is stupid to play stupid about this. Most people start regretting things. We have CIA people confessing on their deathbeds and so on and so forth. It is fucking stupid to play stupid about this. And why do they sabotage them? So they can say, hey, these guys aren't qualified for the job. And affirmative action's a bad thing, right? And that's racist and calculated as can be. Calculated political, scientific racism to a T, which has social, political, economic, and romantic effects. And spiritual as well. Anyway, where were we here? N. When whites would historically tell black people to stay away from the white girls, was it the ugly girls they were most concerned about or the rich women? The richest women. Who put them up to it? It's a typo, but the richest women. Who put them up to it? Obviously, the rich white people. That's why it's called a white power structure. Oh, often white people and whitewashed black people joke about combating racism to mock and prevent social and romantic justice. Say, oh yeah, brother, fight the good fight, kind of thing. People often unfairly say things like, he is playing the race card. And many people who say that are often in hate groups. So many people who say that are in hate groups. There are over 1,000 hate groups. Over 1,000 hate groups. Some of them have many members in America. Most, if not all, elite groups are not considered hate groups. But how many of them you think are hate groups? P. It is a well-known fact that the government plants people and movements to obstruct social and romantic justice. Q. I often wonder why almost everyone upholds white supremacy in their own way out of fear and stupidity when so many cartoons and movies should have inspired them to be brave and wise. To make matters worse, they breed their cowardice. That's why racism and scientific racism are very much alive and well, and they're hitting harder than ever these days. Okay, just because you're not on a plantation doesn't mean they haven't calculated scientific racism. Scientific, not brute force by itself, but scientific racism more than ever.